In the dim light of the evening, inside the room, the doorbell rang. I wiped the tears streaming down my cheeks and looked toward the entrance. My mother-in-law Anna and my sister-in-law Sophia stood side by side. Oh, they've come to help. I hurried towards the entrance. Opening the door, I was stunned. Come on, please. Bring them in. Anna's voice directed people who appeared to be movers. Excuse us, we're coming in. And they entered the house. What? Wait, what's going on? Hearing my bewildered voice, my son Noah, who was in his room upstairs, hurried down the stairs. What's happening, Mom? Noah asked, watching the movers bustling around. Well, I turned back to Noah, confused, when Anna and Sophia spoke up. We're taking my son's house. You guys need to leave. Yeah, that's right. Get out now. Meanwhile, my father-in-law John efficiently directed the movers, and the boxes were carried into the living room as well as the other rooms one after another. Suddenly, Noah, his face turning pale, exclaimed, No, you can't do that. Don't you know, aunties? His face was ghostly pale. This house isn't Dad's anymore, and it's haunted. John turned around, and the movers stopped in their tracks. Catching everyone's attention, Noah shook with a tremor. My name is Emma, 41 years old. My husband, Liam, was a 42-year-old company employee. He had a calm nature and doesn't indulge in alcohol, smoking, or gambling. He worked diligently every day for our family. Liam's hobby was watching movies with me on weekends. Until last year, our son Noah used to join us, but since starting middle school, he preferred spending weekends with his friends over us. While I felt a bit lonely, Liam seemed to find it endearing. He fondly recalled not following his parents' advice to go to a prestigious school, his time as a class representative and student council president, and talked about his high school best friend. Jackson was your best friend, right? You've always been a top student, haven't you? I teased. Liam laughed. If my parents heard that, they'd be outraged. Squinting his eyes while reminiscing. Still, I had a great time in school. He murmured. Are you having fun now? I asked while watching a rented DVD at home. Yeah, I am. Liam answered simply. Then, looking around the living room. No. He corrected himself. It's more than fun. It's happiness. We chose and bought this house ourselves. I have a kind wife and a healthy son. His face clearly showing that. There's nothing more I want. From the bottom of his heart made me blush. That's where you say beautiful wife. I swung my arm in mock frustration, and Liam dodged with a laugh. All right, all right. I'm happy with my beautiful wife. All I need to do now is work hard to pay off that mortgage. We were still paying off our home loan. Liam had arranged the loan so that I, a housekeeper, wouldn't need to work. I'm the lucky one to have such a kind husband. I thought to myself, watching the DVD next to Liam. Liam would always say that our married life is happy, but I can't help but think it wasn't quite happy for him back when he was living at his parents' house before we got married. It's apparent to anyone that he didn't get along well with his parents and his sister, Sophia. I heard the whole issue started when Liam didn't attend the high school his parents wanted him to go to. Sophia, who is 2 years older than him, obediently enrolled in the high school chosen by their parents. She went to college and even got a job at a company her parents approved of, just as they wanted. My sister has become incapable of thinking or deciding for herself. According to Liam, that's how it was. It's easy to just do as your parents say, but then you become a person who can't act without their instructions. You lose the ability to adapt to situations and make your own decisions. As expected, once Sophia started working at the company, she couldn't do anything without being told what to do, felt uncomfortable, and quit within a year. Then, her parents quickly arranged her marriage to Harry, my brother-in-law. Even though Liam was there, they made Harry their adopted son-in-law and lived with him. To me, it doesn't make sense to adopt a son-in-law when you already have a capable son like Liam. And it's not like John's family was that wealthy or anything. John was just a regular company employee. I didn't see the need for them to struggle financially to send their kids to a preparatory school. Ah, that's just my mother and father putting on a show, Liam would say. Apparently, there was a wealthy family living nearby, and their daughter was the same age as Sophia. When they were younger, they used to play with the neighborhood kids, but that changed once they started attending preparatory school. Nothing in particular happened between them and that family, but Liam's parents envied that girl and her family. Determined to send their own children to a preparatory school, they saved up diligently and managed to enroll Sophia into one. As a result, their dinners were humble, except for Sophia's luxurious sandwiches, a rather odd dietary life. Not seeing the need for such a struggle, Liam chose to attend a local high school. I think that was the right decision. But his parents were furious, and from that day, their attitude towards Liam noticeably changed. They used to beam with vanity when mentioning the high school Sophia attended. When people would remark, "I bet your son is too," they might have felt embarrassed admitting he went to a local school. But there's no need to dream of a higher standard of living than necessary. The in-laws and Sophia's family of 3 kids lived in a rented house. Not that there's anything wrong with renting, but I do wonder if they could have spent their money more effectively instead of just for appearances. They even went into debt to send Sophia to a preparatory school and college, and they're still paying it off. I could never understand their way of thinking or their sense of money. This also applied to the allowances given to the kids. The difference in the amount given to Sophia's kids and to Noah, our son, was blatantly obvious. It might be a difference in affection for the grandchildren living with them, but I can't help feeling sorry for Noah. It makes me sigh to think that even Noah is affected by this. It seems that they also didn't like the fact that we owned our house. A 2-story single-family home. Our house is bigger than the in-laws. Showing off with a study, huh? This house is too nice for you. They often came over to our place and made such snide remarks. On top of that, they'd make sarcastic comments like, "Look, there's a stain here," or "The flooring is discolored," and so on and so forth. They would also nitpick. "It's not that impressive after all," they would complain. I really don't see the point of them doing that. If they don't like it, they shouldn't come over. According to Liam, they're just jealous. Or so he said. They're envious because they don't have money and we bought a house, even though we're paying a mortgage. Liam laughed, saying it's all because of their strange habit of keeping up appearances. Harry must have been earning a decent salary. John, who was in his 60s, was still working. But their debt repayment was holding them back. "Don't worry about it," Liam said, but Anna and Sophia would come over when Liam or Noah weren't around. Lately, they've been walking around our house freely while I prepare coffee. "This should be our bedroom. My husband likes this room. This room is spacious, maybe it could be a study room for the kids?" They'd exchange such comments with each other. "What are you doing?" When I finally let my discomfort show, they just smirked and said, "Oh dear, we were just looking around." "Yeah, and you take your sweet time making coffee." I closed the door of the room they were snooping in and had them return to the living room. When Anna asked for a spare key, I felt a bit scared. I couldn't possibly give a spare key to Anna, who walks around someone else's house uninvited. There's a chance she could enter our house when no one is around and rummage through drawers and closets. I thought it was so selfish of them to ask for a spare key when they treated Liam so poorly. "I'll have to talk to Liam about that." I dodged the question and had Liam call later to firmly refuse the request. "How could you deny a key to your own parents?" Anna was furious, but unfortunately, it's his parents who are untrustworthy, so it can't be helped. "Anyhow, just come over when either Emma or myself are at home," Liam said, ending the call. Good health is the most important thing. It's a saying we often hear. At this age, I suddenly felt the weight of those words. Liam was diagnosed with cancer. After feeling unwell in his stomach and getting tested, we were lost for words. Each test revealed more cancer spread throughout his body. The doctor said that without surgery, he only had a few months to live. We had insurance, but it wasn't enough. We had to deal with not only the hospital bills but living expenses and our mortgage too. The happiness we had built fell apart in an instant. I was trembling with fear of losing Liam and the uncertainty of our future. I didn't know what to do and was just scared. I'll ask my parents for help. My parents had already passed away. Being an only child, I had no other family to turn to. Okay. I'll go too. We told Liam's parents, Sophia and her husband, about his condition and asked for financial help. Cancer can be treated pretty easily these days, right? Sophia didn't seem to grasp the situation. The in-laws were hesitant about giving financial aid, though not as much as Sophia. I thought I heard you finished paying off your debt a few months ago. Yeah, we finally managed to. Please, we will definitely pay you back. Lend us the money for the surgery and hospitalization. The money you were going to spend on my education, lend it to us now. Please. I will work too, please just help us. We begged, going on our knees and crossing our hands together. No way. We've only just started being able to afford some luxuries recently. I have insurance that will waive the mortgage if I die. Should that happen, I'll even sell the house to pay back what we borrowed from you. We'll write a memorandum too. We pleaded again and again. But despite somewhat expecting it, we were devastated when Liam's parents shook their heads, refusing to help. In that case, why don't you just sell the house now? Of course, we knew that might be our only option eventually. But if we were to sell it then, we would have to make sure that the money we make can cover hospital bills, treatment costs, and even the rent for a new place for us after subtracting the remaining mortgage. I heard that before we got married, Liam used to send money home to his parents even after he had moved out. It seemed only fair that they could spend a little money for Liam now. No matter how much we pleaded, my in-laws and Sophia's answers didn't change. Liam straightened his back and replied in a flat voice. Understood. That's fine. As we were leaving. Wait a minute. Harry caught up with us. This isn't nearly enough, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't have any savings. And he handed Liam $1,000. Of course, he wouldn't have savings. He was helping with the debt repayment. Despite their boastful claims of, we finally paid it off. It was also thanks to Harry. I'll try to persuade them again. Please don't lose heart. We thanked Harry deeply for his kind words. Thank you. Just the thought is enough. But still, do you have a plan? Yes. Like my sister said, we're thinking of selling the house. Really? I couldn't help but exclaim. Selling the house isn't simple. There are many procedures to go through, and it will take time. There wouldn't be enough time for Liam's hospitalization, which was in a few days. Even if we managed to sell it, we would need to find a new place to live. It's not going to be easy or quick. Don't worry. I just remembered someone who might be able to help. Liam said, smiling at me. Liam fought hard with the cancer for 2 years since the diagnosis. Despite being given only a few months to live, we made many happy memories as a family of 3, in and out of the hospital. We had grown distant with my in-laws, but when the doctor said, he probably can't return home, I contacted them. They visited a few times, but they would just say, he still looks okay, in a cold manner, and go back home right away. It's as if they were just coming to see how much longer Liam has left. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the thought. Surely not. Contact his family. The doctor said. The time had finally come. I called Anna hastily. Oh my gosh! I need to hurry. Yes, it's urgent. You must come to his room right away. Huh? Oh, okay. I'll come if I can. The call ended abruptly, and I returned to Liam and Noah in the hospital room. Only Harry, who came directly from work, and Liam's best friend Jackson showed up. Liam barely opened his eyes, but looked happy to see everyone before closing them for the last time. Harry and Jackson helped with the funeral arrangements. Harry stayed with Liam while Jackson drove Noah and I home so that we could get ready. It was morning when we left the hospital, but the sun had already started to set. We hadn't even cleaned up after breakfast because we had left in a hurry. I turned on the lights in the dim house in the evening. I sat down in the living room and flipped through a photo album. Tears flowed as I looked through it. I wiped the tears falling onto the table and chose a photo of Liam out of all the memorable photos. The doorbell rang. I wiped the tears from my cheeks and looked at the entrance. Anna and Sophia were standing side by side. Oh, they've come to help. Even though they didn't make it in time for Liam's final moments, I hurried to the entrance, thankful they came. But I was stunned when I opened the door. Come on, bring everything in. Anna's voice directed people who appeared to be movers. Excuse us, we're coming in. And they entered the house. What? Wait, what's going on? Hearing my bewildered voice, my son Noah, who was in his room upstairs, hurried down the stairs. What's happening, Mom? He asked, watching the movers bustling around. Well, I turned back to Noah, confused, when Anna and Sophia spoke up. We're taking my son's house. You guys need to leave. Yeah, that's right. Get out now. Meanwhile, John efficiently directed the movers, and the boxes were carried into the living room as well as the other rooms one after another. Suddenly, Noah, his face turning pale, exclaimed. No, you can't do that. Don't you know, aunties? Noah's face was ghostly pale. This house isn't Dad's anymore, and it's haunted. John turned around, and the movers stopped in their tracks. Catching everyone's attention, Noah shook with a tremor. In the midst of all this, a figure comes in through the entrance. What the heck are you doing bringing stuff into my house without permission? Get it out right now. Everyone jumped up at the sound of Jackson's angry voice, which seemed to echo throughout the house, or rather, the entire neighborhood. The movers began taking the stuff they had just brought in back outside without checking with my in-laws, their customers. Not knowing what to do with the boxes, they just left them on the street in front of the house. No, my desk! I heard my nephew's voice and turned to see Harry standing there with his 3 children. The children, seeing their belongings abandoned on the street, made complaints one after another, while Harry asked Sophia. I came over when I heard about the sudden move, but what's this all about? Although Harry is usually mild-mannered, he was furious. What? But Mom said we were moving. What are you talking about? You agreed too. In the midst of an ugly argument between mother and daughter, Harry coldly declared. I can't deal with you all anymore. We're getting a divorce. What? Wait, what are you saying? Harry negotiated directly with the movers to take only his and the children's belongings to his parents' house. Sorry for the trouble at such a difficult time. I'll have them take the kids and our stuff to my parents' place. Without giving Sophia a second glance, Harry and the kids left with the movers. Sophia collapsed crying on the road, and the in-laws stood dumbfounded among the remaining belongings. The neighbors came out to see what was happening, turning the situation into a nightmare. Can we at least move these inside so they're not in the way? I nodded at his words. Yes, that's fine. This is your house, after all. What do you mean? The in-laws stared at us, confused. This is the truth. The day after being refused financial help by my in-laws 2 years ago, Liam brought home with him a very tough-looking man. That man was Jackson. He ran a real estate business and even gave me his business card. I was told that he was a high school classmate of Liam's. Not only was his face tough-looking, but he had an intimidating vibe, so I couldn't help but imagine that he was involved with shady business. Noah got frightened and clung to me tightly, even though he was already in middle school. I glanced at Liam with concern. Noticing my gaze, Liam tilted his head and then laughed as if he just realized something. It's okay. Jackson might look scary, but he's a respectable member of society now. Now? That's when Noah timidly pointed it out. Jackson's eyes widened, and he smacked Liam's head. Liam! Liam was ill, for God's sake. I couldn't believe it, but Liam just laughed heartily. Noah looked so pale that I was worried if he was even breathing. Jackson, you didn't even come to our wedding, even though I sent you an invitation. And you never pay us a visit even though I invite you over. I suddenly remembered. The name Jackson often came up in Liam's stories about his school days and when he went out drinking. From the stories, he seemed like a good friend, so I never imagined this was the same person. You can see why. My looks scare people, so showing up at your wedding or visiting would just cause trouble. Is that why you're still single? I'll hit you again. I could tell from their light banter that this was indeed the Jackson that Liam had been talking about. I couldn't help but chuckle at their conversation. Both stopped and looked at me. Sorry. It's just that Liam is so excited, like a child. Huh? He's always like this. Jackson. Remember, Noah is here too. A father's dignity is important. Dignity, that's something you've never had. Noah. Noah's remark lightened the mood. I told Jackson that Liam was really disappointed he didn't come to our wedding and that we want him to visit any time. Thank you. Now, let's move on to business. We don't have the luxury of time. Jackson's demeanor changed suddenly to a serious expression. First, let me look at the condition of the house. Jackson went around checking each room. Once he finished examining the exterior walls and the meter box, he pulled out his laptop and started typing something. After a while, he showed us the screen. How about this amount for the selling price? I was taken aback by the amount he proposed. It was higher than what we had paid when we bought it. It's a very generous appraisal, but can we really sell it for this price? It's been about 10 years since we moved in, and there would be no point if it doesn't sell. We hadn't renovated it in years. Like Anna and Sophia said, there are stains here and there. I heard about that from Liam. They were talking about what they were going to do with each room, right? Yes. That means they think it's still perfectly habitable. Don't worry, it will sell for this price. Full of confidence, Jackson assured us. You can trust him. Liam added. Understood. Please proceed with this price. As I agreed, Jackson quickly spread several documents on the table. Oh, and we need to find somewhere else to live. At my words, Jackson responded. Sure. With a smile. He laid out rental agreement papers as well. First, I will buy this house directly. That solves one problem. Then, I'll rent it back to you. There, the second problem is also solved. I was taken aback, but Jackson continued. I'll transfer the money from the sale into your account within a few days. From there, we can pay off the remaining loan. Jackson smiled reassuringly. It was a boyish smile that made his earlier intimidating impression vanish. As we filled out the documents, I noticed the rental fee. $100. Both Liam and Noah looked surprised too, peering over the document. Shouldn't it be $1,000? Liam said. It's a typo, right? And as we laughed, it's not a mistake. Jackson said. What? I owe that much to Liam. After a moment of thought. No, you don't. Liam said. But Jackson told me about their high school days. Jackson was a real delinquent back then. He had been in trouble with the police several times and was often in fights which left his mother in tears. One day, his mother, a single mom, was hospitalized. She had fainted from stress and exhaustion. Rushing to the hospital, Jackson was shocked to see how frail and small his mother had become. He realized it was his fault and bawled his eyes out like a child. After that, he changed his ways, stopped getting into fights, and stayed out of trouble with the police. But then one day, a cigarette butt was found on the rooftop of the school building. It caught fire in a nearby dumpster and caused a small blaze. This became a problem at school, and they assumed Jackson, who had a bad reputation, was the culprit. No matter how much he denied it, saying, "It's not me." No one believed him due to his past behavior. He was at risk of being expelled. When his mother burst into tears again, Liam believed in Jackson's innocence. "He was the only one who believed in my innocence. He was the student council president at the time. We were in the same class but had never really talked before." Jackson reminisced, saying Liam had protested to the principal, did some investigation among the students, gathered evidence, and found the real culprit. But you had insisted you didn't do it, right?" "Naturally, I believed him." "No way. But thanks to you, I graduated high school and gave back to my mother. I even became the president of a company." That's why Jackson said he owed that much. The three of us, as a family, exchanged glances and gratefully accepted the rent proposal. This was what happened that day 2 years ago. As Noah said, "I own this house now and am renting it to this family. If you don't believe me, I'll show you the documents later." Jackson glanced at Noah, then turned back to the in-laws with a smile. "However, either family is welcome to rent the house. Shall I offer you a bargain?" Jackson smiled at my astonishment. "I'll also introduce you to new properties." After the funeral, we moved out of the house and into an apartment Jackson had recommended. Just unpack the bare essentials. We'll probably be able to move back to that house soon," Jackson said with a mischievous smile, and I asked him what made him think so. Noah, curious too, came closer to us. "I actually thought about kicking them out that day. But then I changed my mind. Listen, here's the plan." Jackson leaned in, as if sharing a secret with us. 3 days later, we went back to our old home saying, we left a couple of things behind, under the pretense that we were retrieving them. Anna reluctantly offered snacks when Jackson joined us. "How's the new place?" "Not bad at all," John replied contentedly. "Really?" Noah asked. "Yes, really. No noises from the empty stairs? Or in the shower room?" Noah looked around the living room fearfully. "Right, Noah said there were ghosts, didn't he?" "I don't think Mom knows about it, but ever since Dad got hospitalized, I started to hear strange noises. Once, I saw the hem of a skirt on the stairs, thinking Mom was back, but no one was there." "That's ridiculous." Anna's words were cut off as Noah and Jackson simultaneously looked upstairs. "Is there someone on the second floor?" That was impossible. Sophia completely lost her vigor after her divorce with Harry was finalized. Although she was silent, she was in the living room. "What? Stop with this nonsense." "I didn't hear anything." Noah and Jackson exchanged glances and hurriedly packed up. "That's good to hear. We'll take our leave then." They rushed out of the house and quickly got into the car. The in-laws, who had come to see us off at the entrance, looked frightened. In the car, we burst into laughter. Jackson's plan was to use the lie about ghosts that Noah had made up on the spot. "This is for treating Liam poorly for so long. Where in the world do you find a parent or sister neglecting their dying son and getting ready to move into his house?" I couldn't agree more with the words that Jackson spat out while he was driving. Jackson and Noah played such pranks on them repeatedly. Eventually, it was even said that mysterious incidents that neither of them had even mentioned would occur in that house. The in-laws and Sophia got creeped out, mistaking the noises in the house for poltergeists. They complained to Jackson and Noah, but we never experienced such things. "Jumping to conclusions can be a scary thing," Noah said, laughing. Eventually, the in-laws and Sophia couldn't stand it anymore and moved out of the house. They rented a place within their budget, introduced by Jackson. That was just business. I made sure to find them a decent, budget-friendly old apartment. Jackson said with a sly smirk, and Noah and I applauded. By the way, Sophia, after divorcing Harry, had to start working again to pay child support. Seems like she's getting a taste of the harshness of society. I wish her all the best now that she has to single-handedly take care of her parents who had looked after her. Eventually, we returned to the house we bought with Liam. Although we couldn't buy it back, we still live there for a rent of $100. Harry and his 3 kids have started to visit again. Sophia seems to be asking for reconciliation, but Harry is not considering it at all. Once a month, Jackson comes over to collect the rent. He times it with Liam's monthly anniversary. After looking at Liam's photo, we have dinner together, and he even listens to Noah's troubles, now a high school student. And Noah and I have a little secret joy. It's the stories about Liam's school days that we hear occasionally at dinner. We hear so many stories that we never knew about, and we learn new things about Liam. I'm sure Liam is smiling with us around the dining table. "No way, come on," Liam would say, making childish excuses. You're a bad woman, dear. Isn't it the same for you, listening to such a bad woman? By the way, is everything okay with Jane? It's fine. I just can't see her as a woman anymore. For Michael and Linda, it was definitely not the first meeting with each other, but the moment we were alone, that is what it comes to. I felt something boiling up from the bottom of my stomach. Leaving them, the 3 of us headed to the Botanical and Zoological Park. It was a perfect day for a drive. As we entered the main road, Lisa said, "Oh, right. What's up?" "Mom, I made sure the doors were locked." At that moment, probably both Nick and I froze. What she was talking about was the entrance to the basement where the 2 should be. My name is Jane, a 35-year-old housewife. Currently living with my 2 years older husband, Michael, and our 8-year-old daughter, Lisa. I've thought about having another child. But there were 2 reasons why it ended up being just Lisa. One of the reasons was that I couldn't dream of having siblings myself. I have one sister, Linda. Our parents obviously favored her more, even to an outsider's eyes. I didn't like our parents for favoring just Linda, nor did I like myself for resenting her. That's why I was scared to give Lisa a sister. Linda has been pretty since she was little, even from a younger sister's point of view. Bright-colored clothes suits her with a nice body. She has always been smiling and good at acting cute. On the other hand, I've looked so plain. No makeup or clothes suited me, which my mother was bored. "Oh boy, you never look pretty with any items." I hated her size for that. The main reason I went to a university in Urban and looked for a job was to get away from home, my parents, and Linda. Linda recently returned our family home again. I learned about it from a phone call from my mother. "What's up? It's rare for you to call." "Well, you see, Linda's come back again." Again? Linda had been married twice before. The first time was right after graduating from university. Frankly, it was a shotgun wedding. A marriage of necessity, though these days they say blessed with a child. At the time, Linda's situation was really one of no choice. Her partner was 5 years older than her. They met at a group blind date, and Linda aggressively approached him. As a result, she got pregnant before getting a job and ended up marrying. Her first husband was a decent marriage partner, even in our parents' eyes. His parents were initially happy to have a beautiful wife for their son. However, Linda showed her true colors soon enough. Before 5 years were up, her spending habits kicked in, depleting the savings meant for their future home. When her first husband could no longer trust her, he brought up divorce. However, since their son Nick was still young, custody went to Linda. Nick's father was extremely frustrated. But she was with her next husband for quite a while, wasn't she? What happened? Well, you see, she cheated. My mother's voice was heavy. A year after her divorce, Linda quickly found someone else and remarried thanks to being in her 20s. A beautiful divorcee with a child made a difference. Her next partner was the manager of the part-time job she was working at. Her appearance and charm played a big part again. After the marriage to the store manager, she quit her part-time job to care about rumors. I told her to stop overspending this time. But you know. Well, the spending did decrease somewhat. The income of her new husband was less than the first one. In fact, he had inherited a house after losing his parents early. Maybe Linda's aim was there. No need to spend on a future home, but if she did it again, she'd lose her place to live. But you know, it was fine until Nick was in elementary school. What does that mean? As you know, the interactions between parents or attending school events decreased as Nick was grown up. I nodded deeply. Certainly, being busy with such interactions doesn't leave much free time. Then, Linda had time on her hands. Wait, time on her hands and she cheated? Well, yeah. She always picks good men as husbands, but as for being attractive as men, I was astonished. Can a mother say such a thing? So now, Linda and Nick are staying at our house. By the way, she got divorced because of cheating, right? Could she pay the compensation from the divorce trial? Do you think she could pay? We had no choice but to cover it from our side. So, it wasn't just a temporary cover. As usual, too lenient. Oh, Jane, she said she'd come to visit your place sometimes. What? You're joking. Why do I have to entertain her now? What are you saying? She's your only sister. Oh man, started again. You've always been cold-hearted. Linda said so too. You hardly ever come back home. That's true. Why would I need to return to a place where I'm uncomfortable? Please, think about Nick. He's had to change schools so many times and seems so uncomfortable. I was at a loss for words when she mentioned that. Nick really is a good kid. Eventually, Linda and Nick started coming to our house frequently. Ironically, we now live in the neighboring city to our hometown, just an hour's drive away. Having Linda as a sister made me lose interest in having siblings and not want more children. The other reason was that after giving birth, my relationship with Michael became less intimate. It started with a job transfer and moving. Originally, we lived near the city center when we first got married. But around the time I finished pregnancy and childbirth, Michael got suddenly transferred. The place we moved to was Denver. Then he suddenly said, "This house looks very nice. Let's purchase it." The house was located in the eastern edge of Denver. We ended up living an hour's drive from our parents' home on the west end. The house had a basement, which he was most into. I've always wanted a studio. That was news to me. I knew he was into art. He chose art museums for our dates before we got married. But I never thought he'd paint himself. Oh? Didn't I mention it? I was in the art club in high school and wanted to go to art college. However, the costly tuition fee for art colleges were impossible for his family. It seemed to be a lingering regret for him. When purchasing own house, he always wanted a studio. But why basement? I need stable lighting from above, facing north. Actually, that was a semi-basement with the first floor raised. The studio was placed where there were light well windows. But it was too big only for the studio, so I decided to use half the room near the stairs as storage. As soon as we moved, I gathered various things and stored them there. Also, it became a place for occasional outdoor gear and my homemade wine. The studio's inner door is solid, lockable from both inside and outside. Once locked from the inside, it's Michael's dream space. On the other hand, the storage entrance has a very simple latch. Given the solid inner door, we didn't put much emphasis on the storage door. Michael started spending more and more time in that basement. Hey Mom, Dad doesn't play with me much since we moved here. I could only sigh at Lisa's sad words. It was still okay when it was newly built, but gradually he brought in a small fridge, a single bed, and a tablet. He often stayed overnight on the eve of holidays, only coming up for the bathroom and bath on the first floor. Why don't you take Lisa to the amusement park sometime? You want to take away my only pleasure? This is how I refresh to keep going at work every day. The number of arguments increased and our marital life decreased. I spent my days on the upper floor with Lisa. We originally had 2 semi-double beds, but one was often unused. I frequently ended up sleeping with Lisa. Amidst all that, Linda started imposing herself on my place. Besides, she brought her son Nick with her. It's a bit strict at our place, but yours is spacious. Nick can study, right? Saying that, she'd leave Nick and go out. He would diligently do his homework and revision or entertain Lisa, waiting for his mother to return. One day, Linda noticed our basement. Oh, what's this? It's Michael's studio. You'll get in trouble if you go in, so stay out, Linda. A studio. Michael paints? She only said that much at the time. But that day, unlike usual, she stayed until night. At the dinner table, which I had cooked a lot, I started those conversation. So, Michael, I hear you paint. Oh, yes. A bit embarrassing to admit. There's nothing embarrassing about it. It's a wonderful hobby. Thanks, but my wife here, she doesn't really appreciate it. But you know, art is something that's not easily understood by the average person. I felt uneasy at Linda's sweet words. Do you paint landscapes? Currently, yes. Landscapes are still lives. I used to enjoy painting portraits in high school. Portraits, you say? Her eyes widened. Then, may I model for you? Huh? Are you sure, Linda? I've always wanted someone to paint a portrait of me. But Linda, aren't you job hunting right now? Right, that's her excuse for driving around during the day. What are you talking about? Even if I'm job hunting, I have days off, right? That's true, weekends are free for me too. Jane, you probably don't know about modeling fees. It's really helpful when someone close offers to model. Wait, what about our picnic next weekend? True, we were planning to go to the nearby botanical and zoological park for a picnic, a long-awaited trip. Then Nick chimed in. Hey Lisa, would you mind if I joined? You coming? Yeah. I've always wanted to visit that botanical and zoological park. That's right, Jane. Michael's busy with me, so why don't you go with our Nick? Linda chuckled and smirked at me. I understand. This woman is targeting my husband, just like in the past. Then, shall we discuss it now? Sure. And leaving dinner somewhat unfinished, Michael and Linda headed down to the basement. Left behind, we continued eating with 2 plates of leftovers in front of us. Sorry about Mom. Nick expressed his apology to me. There's no need for you to apologize, Nick. Besides, it's just modeling. Do you believe so? He gave a wry, mature smile. After a silent meal, he stood beside me to help with the dishes. Thanks, that helps. No problem, I'm used to it. He took the job of wiping and putting away the dishes, but he seemed to have something on his mind. What's wrong? Listen, Jane. Actually. He looked at me with a kind of desperation. Do you have something you want to tell me? I lowered my voice. Right, he must have offered to help to tell me something he didn't want Lisa to hear. Mom always lures men like that. You knew that? Yes. She even kicked me out of the house to cheat on someone recently. I shivered. Really? Yes. My dad was very dedicated to his work and treated me like his own son. But he often worked late into the night. Taking advantage of that, Mom brought a man home. So, I took photos and recorded their voices and told Dad. He bit his lip. I was so frustrated, thinking about how good my dad was. He clenched the cloth in his hand. Then Dad thanked me for telling him, and he started the divorce proceedings. So, you were the reason for their divorce? Yes. I felt sorry for that poor man being deceived by Mom. He didn't tell anyone that the evidence came from me. He couldn't take me in, but at least he didn't want to make my position worse. I see. Now, you're telling me that because you want me to do something? I think you should go check on them downstairs in a little while. Okay, I will. I replied. Then for 2 hours, Nick kept Lisa entertained with games. I like you very much, Nick. Nick, the well-behaved child, was excellent at handling Lisa. During breaks in the game, they searched the botanical and zoological park on the tablet, exciting her with what's there and what they'll see. As they happily played, I quietly headed down to the basement. Both the storage entrance and the inner door were left open. I silently and without turning on the light entered the storage area and crept towards a spot where I could see inside. What I saw was Linda sitting on a still life stand, embracing Michael. Even from a distance, I could see that the buttons on Linda's blouse were undone. "You're a bad woman, dear."
Aren't you the same, listening to such a bad woman? By the way, is everything okay with Jane?
"It's fine. I can't even think of her as a woman anymore." Laughing together in low voices, the unbearable sounds continued. It was definitely not the first meeting for them. So, this is what happens when they're alone. I felt something boiling up from deep within. But I didn't barge in angrily at that moment. The phrase art model is convenient. Even if Linda was dressed like that, she'd probably calmly say,
"There's such a thing as a nude model, right?"
Moreover, Michael would defend it with and say, "It's to understand the body's lines." I needed something more conclusive. Quietly, I went back outside and up the stairs. Seeing me return, Nick simply told me, "See? Just like I said. What will you do, Jane?" His tone was mature and unemotional. "I've thought of something." "Okay. I'll prepare myself too." Then, the weekend arrived. It was Saturday with a clear sky, and warmer than expected. Maybe we can have lunch on the grass at the Botanical and Zoological Park, I thought, searching the storage for outdoor gear with Lisa. By that time, the inner door was already closed. Although Linda brought Nick, she quickly entered Michael's studio and closed the door. We couldn't tell what was happening behind that door.
"What do we have here?"
"Let's see, a sheet and a pop-up tent in case the wind picks up, plus pegs. Also, ropes so it doesn't fly away."
"Jane, is the tent okay?"
"We'll ask at the entrance later." We continued chatting while carrying things out. Nick and I had our hands full, so we left the door open. Then, we got in the car and drove off. It was really a great day for a drive. As we entered the main road, suddenly Lisa said,
"Oh, right.
"What's up?"
Mom, I locked the door."
"Huh?"
"Well, you guys both had your hands full. It's not good to leave the door open when we're leaving."
At that moment, probably both Nick and I froze. Lisa knew about the studio but didn't understand what kind of place it was. Michael takes care of all the cleaning and has told me not to touch anything. So, during the day, I usually lock the inner door to prevent Lisa from moving anything. But today, "Hey Lisa, why did you lock the storage door?" Nick asked her.
"Well, earlier, the door of the usually well-closed inner room was swinging." "Hey Mom, you always lock the inner room, right?" "But I don't know where the key for that is. So I thought locking it from the outside would be okay."
"Okay, I see. The inner door has a proper lock. But the outer one is just a latch. So even Lisa could lock it." "I see. That makes sense." I visualized the situation and felt a smile spreading on my face. Then I said to them, "Hey guys, let's go see Dad's parents after this, okay?"
"Wow, really?"
"Is that okay?" That was the plan. Going to my in-laws' house was part of it. But I added, "It's been a while, let's stay overnight." In the next evening, after having a delightful time and enjoying every meal at my in-laws' house, it's time to head back. No, not yet. Michael's father George and I was arguing about staying longer. Then, my smartphone rang. "Hello."
"What?"
"The police?" "What's up, Jane?" "Put it on speaker, will you?" Following George's request, I switched to speaker and answered the call.
"Is this Jane's phone?"
"Yes, this is Jane." There seemed to be noise in the background of the police officer, with ambulance sirens blaring.
"What happened?"
"Well, we received a report from your neighbors about sounds of breaking glass and bad smell coming from your basement."
"What?"
I was surprised and got aloud.
"What's going on?"
"Michael was staying today, right?"
"Yeah, but why?"
I said to George, "My in-laws are truly kind people. They rarely can't see their granddaughter Lisa, but they adore her. The only concern of them is that they shared their complaints about Michael, who suddenly had bought a faraway house, over the phone. Honestly, compared to my parents, they're much more reasonable people. They even warmly welcome Nick, who's technically just my nephew. I asked the police.
So, what exactly happened?
Yes, it seems Michael broke the window.
Could you explain a bit more?
I'll give you the details in sequence.
Then we'll go play games over there.
Okay.
Sensing the situation, Nick took Lisa away. It was indeed not a conversation for Lisa to hear. Then the police officer began to explain to us. A neighbor was startled by the sound of breaking glass and peeked into our house. The neighbor hesitated at first, but knew with each other well, so entered the yard to find the source of the noise. She discovered it was the window of our usually unnoticed basement. In a panic, she peered through the broken window and smelled something awful. Then she saw a naked man and woman, wrapped in blankets and sheets, writhing in pain. Soon after, she hurriedly called the police. One of the naked people was identified as Michael. My in-laws' faces twisted as they listened.
What on earth is he doing?
Ignoring George's anger, I continued.
We're hearing the ambulance siren there?
Yes. When we approached, we were told they were trapped and injured, so we called an ambulance and a rescue team. What a big operation. My in-laws sighed more heavily. We removed a window pane due to security considerations, as the front door was locked, and sent in a team to rescue the two.
Thank you. But what kind of injuries?
Michael apparently fell from a stand trying to climb out of the window and hurt his back. My in-laws looked shocked, their mouths gaping. Then, I asked something else that needed to be confirmed.
The other woman, is her name Linda by any chance? She's my sister.
Okay, your sister, she is. The police officer hesitated.
What's wrong?
Yes, she identified herself as Linda. We've already contacted your family about this, but the source of the bad smell was her.
Excuse me?
It seems she had a stomach upset, maybe due to the cold or drinking too much beer. She was naked and had defecated. There's a lot of excrement scattered in your basement.
I'm sorry.
Apparently, they tried to clean themselves with the stored drinking water in the storage. It spread all over the floor and soaked into the clothes they had left behind, affecting both of them. My in-laws grimaced at the mention of the clothes.
Where is my husband now? Which hospital?
Let's see. The police gave the hospital name and address and hung up. I couldn't quite comprehend what was happening. I should say, I was aware we had locked them in. I thought there would be solid evidence of the affair, and we could thoroughly check the studio later. However, that was unexpected. Certainly, if locked in, they couldn't use the toilet. To think it led to such a big incident with the police, ambulance, and rescue team.
Jane, are you all right?
Realizing the call had ended, Nick rushed over and shook me. Then he suddenly apologized toward my in-laws.
I'm so sorry for what my mom did.
Right, I needed to play the responding to his questions. Nick, did you hear that?
I heard Linda's name. Sorry, that's my mom. She was targeting Michael. What? So, she said she'd model.
I deliberately raised my voice.
Yes, and she tried to let us go out.
That's terrible.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're not the one. Apologize for such things. George, could you guys please go to see Michael now? That's right. I have to listen to the situation exactly. What about you, Jane? I'm not sure what to do now. I'm too shaken and might cause an accident if I drive. Okay, all right. We'll go check on him. Thank you. After they left, Nick and I exchanged a firm handshake, completing our charade. 2 weeks later, my lawyer reported things were likely to go smoothly. Indeed, I had been staying at my in-laws and making my next move. First, I called the neighbor Nancy, who discovered the situation, asking for detailed descriptions of when the two were rescued. Nancy is a gossip lover and skilled in quickly spreading what she sees and hears. I had always maintained a good relationship to avoid any bad rumors, but who knew it would come in handy like this?
Oh dear, a police car and an ambulance in a residential area? The place was crowded with onlookers. And your husband, well, how should I say?
I urged her to continue.
And that other woman. She smelled so bad. What did she eat to produce such a stench?
Upon revealing the woman was my sister.
That's shocking. So, your sister seduced your husband.
She sounded almost excited. So, I replied with a feigned and strong voice.
It seems to be the case.
While she expressed sympathy, her excitement was unmistakable. Thanks to her, I knew there were many witnesses to the affair. My words about the neighbors watching would spread quickly among them. Next, I sought a lawyer for the divorce and to get a restraining order against Linda. I couldn't stand the sight of Michael. I decided to settle everything through the lawyer.
What about going home?
Lisa asked.
Thieves broke into our house.
I explained. Well, they were thieves, in a way.
Thieves took Dad away.
She tilted her head, seemingly confused. She had lost expectations and familiarity with a father who'd stopped playing with her. Meanwhile, Michael's incessant calls were unrelenting. Ignoring them, I recorded his voicemails. Apparently, he broke his back in the fall and had to be hospitalized. According to my in-laws, both Linda and Michael smelled terrible.
I'm utterly disappointed at Michael,
lamented Michael's mother Mia, who fiercely lectured them in the hospital. George also disgusted and considered severing ties with him. Their scolding probably fueled the flood of messages from Michael.
What's this? I'm hurt. Why aren't you showing up? Did you lock me in? A lawyer came, divorce? No way. What? Lisa locked the door. Hey. Why is there a video circulating online? Did you do something? Fine, I'll agree to the divorce, but isn't the expense too much? Please, I beg you. Can't you lower the compensation? Nobody wants to buy the house with the basement in this state. Please, just answer the phone once.
His voice was tearful toward the end. I do get calls from Linda. But since it's just incomprehensible ranting, I turn the volume down as soon as I recognize her voice. I can't let Lisa hear such foul language. On the other hand, Nick managed to contact his biological father.
Mom never gave me his cell number, but Grandma had told me the home phone number.
She said to call it in case of an emergency.
Emergency?
Yeah. Grandma was really upset she couldn't get custody from Mom. She said there was something missing back then, and I ended up going with Mom. I see. But after what happened this time, I think she's definitely not fit to be a parent anymore. I hope that's the case. He said with determination in his voice. Mom always complained about my housework. Even so, she wouldn't help me.
Really?
Yeah, thanks to that, I can do many things by myself, though. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him.
My real dad was against it, so just for that, I've always wanted to go with him.
He said.
I see.
So, thank you for giving me this chance.
I should thank you. You know, your mom always liked to take things that were mine.
He looked up to the sky.
But you know, it's not about things, it's about people. You can't get caught up in that. At least he has a family, he shouldn't be tempted. He's no good otherwise.
I continued to him.
Therefore, we both got rid of something bad and feel refreshed, don't we?
As for the two of them, my divorce went through. I got full custody of Lisa, and it was decided I would receive property distribution, compensation, and child support. Michael decided to sell the dream house to make payments. But the house, especially the basement, was in such a bad state, so it got lowballed.
See? I say he is foolish. He is supposed to make studios and studies after the kids move out.
His father George said. But Michael's parents both still want to see their grandchild. I've been well taken care of by them, so I plan to keep in touch. Meanwhile, Linda and our parents were furious after being sued for compensation in the divorce. When my lawyer said to Linda,
"By the way, Jane has renounced her inheritance. She wants nothing to do with you. If you do anything rash, she'll get a restraining order."
Then unbelievably, she grabbed a vase and struck him with it. That's clearly assault, so she was charged and ended up behind bars for a short time. Our parents also had to sell their house to pay the additional compensation. That's what they get for spoiling her.
Mom, I'm off.
I'm leaving too. After that, I moved a bit further away. To a place far from my parents' house and the house I used to live in. Good morning, I say as I arrive at work.
Hi, how are you?
My current employer responds. He's Nick's father. I'm currently employed as an office worker at his company. It's not a big company, but it's a sincere business rooted in the community. On days off, Lisa asks to visit Nick at his father's place. They're grateful to me for giving Nick the chance to return. They are far better people than my own parents. Finally, days with people I can feel at peace with have arrived. From now on, I plan to live brightly and happily, mainly for Lisa's sake.
At that moment, I suddenly noticed a photograph among several mementos inside the coffin. It was a picture of me and my mother-in-law, Haley. As I held the photograph in my hands, tears streaming down my face, something written on the back became visible in the light. What's this? Seeing the words written on the back of the photograph, I was speechless. My name is Cher, a 32-year-old office worker. I've been married to my husband Roy for 3 years. We met at a party, and he was the one who actively pursued me, which led to our dating. After 2 years of dating, we decided to get married. Soon after, we visited each other's parents to announce our marriage. I was extremely nervous when I first met my in-laws. "Oh, nice of you to come." "Nice to meet you. I'm Cher." "Hello, I'm Roy's mother." Haley, who greeted us at the entrance with a warm smile, was the only one there. Although I felt relieved that she seemed nice, my nerves returned when we entered the living room and saw Roy's father, John, sitting there with a stern look. My nervousness came back all at once. I greeted John too, but he just grunted, "Hello, nice to meet you," without changing his expression, as if I were a son-in-law instead of a daughter-in-law. But Haley lightened the mood, saying, "Don't mind him, he's just shy," with a laugh. Then Haley chatted with me and shared stories about Roy, making for a delightful time. John was as reserved as he first appeared, but Haley's presence made it less concerning. Roy was equally nervous when meeting my dad. My mom passed away when I was in high school, and I lived with my dad. Even after graduating college and starting work, I stayed with him, thinking it would be lonely for him alone. Plus, I worried he wouldn't eat properly by himself. My dad is usually sociable and kind, but he too put on a dignified front like John, greeting Roy with a poised demeanor. Seeing my dad like that, Roy remained tense, which I found amusing. After successfully completing the family introductions, we had our wedding and began our life as a couple. We have had a happy marriage without major arguments. Roy, being family-oriented, often took me to visit his parents. Haley always welcomed me with a warm smile. "Cher, welcome." "Hello, Haley." "Mom, I brought some sweets." "Oh, Roy, thanks as always. Let's enjoy them together. I'll make some coffee." "Okay, I'll help." Roy would always help out when visiting his parents, wanting to do everything for them as their only son. Haley seemed pleased with his assistance, always smiling kindly in the kitchen. We would enjoy snacks and dinner together, chatting amiably. "Haley, this dish is delicious." "Thank you. I'm so glad you think so. John never says anything, so I worry if it tastes right." "If it tastes bad, I'd say so." "So if you're silent, it means it's good?" John, perhaps embarrassed, would suddenly become quiet and focus on his meal. Haley watched him with a laugh, and John would grumble, "What's with the staring? Annoying." Haley's laughter. At this response made it clear how much she adored John. She was very affectionate towards me, treating me like her own daughter. You know Roy is our only child. I always wanted a daughter, so I think of you as my real daughter. I'm glad to hear that. Haley and I occasionally went out together for coffee or shopping. This combination would look great on you, Cher. Haley had worked as a stylist and fashion coordinator, so she had an excellent sense for choosing clothes. I liked clothes, but often struggled to find what suited me. Shopping with Haley was helpful, as she always picked out clothes that fit me well. Thanks to her, I was able to make very satisfying purchases. Working in an office where I can wear casual clothes, I received many compliments when I wore the outfits Haley picked out for me. Shopping for clothes with a daughter and seeing her wear what I choose was always a dream of mine. I'm so glad Roy married you, Cher. I'm really happy to have you as my mother-in-law. Oh, that's wonderful to hear. How's Roy? Is he causing you any trouble? Not at all. He's working hard. That's good. But if there's anything that concerns you, feel free to talk to me. Even though I'm his mother, I can be impartial. Thank you. It seemed Haley thought of herself as a mother figure to me, given I didn't have a mother, and I too felt she was like a second mother. As our third wedding anniversary approached, I began to think about giving Haley the joy of seeing her grandchild. But then, Roy suddenly received a call from John. What's wrong, Dad? What? Mom? Seeing Roy freeze, I had a terrible premonition. What happened, Roy? Mom. She's passed away. What? It was so sudden. Haley had collapsed unexpectedly and was declared dead at the hospital. Both Roy and I were deeply shocked. At the hospital, the usual stoic John was visibly distraught. How can I live alone now? Dad. John looked like he was about to cry. Despite his usual demeanor, he truly loved Haley. Roy and I comforted John and began preparing for the funeral. I felt a duty to properly farewell Haley, who had treated me like her own daughter. It was an act of filial piety and gratitude, even though she was my mother-in-law. I had wanted to show her a grandchild and go to many more places with her and the family. Just before the funeral began, I peered into the coffin to imprint Haley's face in my memory. One last time, she looked peaceful, like she did when we visited their home. It seemed as if she would wake up if called. At that moment, I noticed a photograph among several mementos in the coffin. It was a photo of Haley and me. I recalled a time at a clothing store when a salesperson recognized Haley, and we took a two-shot wearing the clothes we bought. Haley had gotten the photo printed and kept it with her. I was touched that she cherished our memories so much. As I looked at the photo with tears in my eyes, the light revealed some writing on the back. What's this? I was speechless seeing the words on the back. There was the date of Haley's death, and next to it, the word, completed. I instinctively felt this was something dangerous. It seemed ominous, almost as if it implied Haley had been finished off. What in the world does that mean? Does it mean Haley has been erased? And there was something else that frightened me. The handwriting looked familiar. After the funeral, Roy, John, and I went to Haley's house to sort her belongings. There, the three of us were sorting through Haley's belongings. The conversation was minimal, with the usually bright Haley no longer there. John's eyes were teary, and he looked so lonely.
Cher, Roy, thank you.
John rarely expressed gratitude.
Your mom had many precious things. It would have been hard to sort them alone.
John truly loved Haley, even if he didn't say it.
Don't worry, Dad. You can always rely on us,
Roy said with a gentle smile. Normally, I'd find such kindness reassuring, but at this time, I was filled with fear. But I was filled with terror, because the handwriting on the photo's back was unmistakably Roy's. I discreetly watched Roy's actions, trying not to let him notice. He was excessively searching Haley's room. John initially focused on sorting, but he seemed to realize Roy was looking for something.
What's wrong, Roy? Are you looking for something? Oh no.
Roy seemed flustered when John asked him.
I was just curious about the things Mom cherished. I thought I might keep anything that could serve as a memento. I see. She did have a fondness for little trinkets and jewelry. Feel free to take anything you like.
My husband looks relieved when John says so. Relieved by John's words, Roy resumed searching Haley's room with renewed focus. I was torn about what to do. I suspected Roy, but had no proof he harmed Haley. I couldn't report him based on mere suspicion. And I didn't want to believe that my loving husband, who always smiled so kindly at Haley, could be guilty. But once suspicion took hold, every little thing seemed incriminating, and I became increasingly fearful. Even at home, I was too scared to be at ease around Roy. Amidst this, I unexpectedly received a call from my dad. Dad, what's up?
Sorry to bother you suddenly, Cher. I seem to have hurt my back.
Are you okay?
It's pretty bad. Could you come over and help with the housework for a while?
That bad?
Can you come over?
All right, I understand. I explained the situation to Roy and decided to go to my dad's. Roy said,
It's serious. If something happened to Dad, go ahead.
Though I felt sorry for Dad, I was relieved he hurt his back at this time. It gave me a chance to be away from Roy. I packed some clothes and headed to my parents' house. Upon arriving, I unlocked the door. Dad, I'm here. Are you okay? I called out immediately. Dad walks towards me from the entrance, as if nothing was wrong.
Cher, are you all right?
What do you mean? Aren't you hurt?
That was a lie.
A lie?
I noticed something was off with you at Roy's mother's funeral, especially right before it started. And Roy was acting strange too, but differently. What's on your mind? Did you find something suspicious about Roy?
Hearing this, I felt my tension unravel and almost collapsed. Dad quickly supported me and led me to the sofa. Thanks, Dad.
It's okay. You must be exhausted. Can you tell me what's been bothering you?
I explained about the writing on the back of the photo.
I see. This needs investigating.
Dad immediately started making a call. Actually, Dad's profession is a detective. Dad then called the specialized agency to request a handwriting analysis on the text in the photo.
Cher, stay here for a while. I'll look into this matter.
Okay, I understand. I calmly informed Roy that Dad's condition wasn't great, so I'd be staying at my parents' for a while. Roy accepted this without suspicion. Meanwhile, Dad began investigating Haley's death. Out of the blue, Roy showed up at my parents' house. Roy, what are you doing here?
I was just worried about your dad's condition.
Right. His back's getting better, but it'll take time to fully recover.
Can I greet him?
No, he's sleeping right now.
I see.
Roy's smile didn't reach his eyes.
Why is the chain locked? We're married, right? Why are you so guarded?
I'm not being guarded.
Then let me in.
I can't do that.
Cher, are you hiding something? You haven't said anything strange to John, have you?
Like what?
Like, I killed my mother.
When he said that, his face was no longer smiling. My heart pounded wildly. I was glad I had locked the chain.
I can't have you spreading weird rumors. Besides, your John is with the police, right? It'd be a problem if the investigation reached me due to some baseless suspicion.
Baseless suspicion? I already found out about the huge debt you were hiding. And you frequently asked Haley to help with repayments, didn't you? Did you kill Haley to claim her life insurance because you couldn't repay it all? That would be despicable. You took the life of Haley, who cared so much for you, just to settle your debts? You murderer! I couldn't hold back any longer. Even though I knew it might put me in danger, I couldn't forgive my husband for killing Haley, who was also dear to me. Then Roy started trembling violently.
So you know that much. Then I'll have to kill you too,
he said, and began trying to force open the entrance door. Of course, it wouldn't open due to the chain, but the look in my husband's eyes filled me with fear. They were no longer the eyes of a normal person, but those of a criminal determined to kill me. I hurriedly moved away from there and found a safe place to hide inside the house.
Hey, don't run away. Your dad isn't here right now, is he? I'll kill you before he gets back.
I immediately took out my mobile phone and called Dad. Dad, help! Roy has come to the house. As I spoke to Dad, a loud crash echoed, followed by the sound of footsteps on broken glass. I held my breath. Making any noise would reveal my hiding place.
Hey, Cher, where are you? Answer me.
I hear my husband's voice, Roy's voice, and the sound of something like a weapon striking the walls or doors could be heard. I covered my mouth to prevent any sound from escaping. But soon, he found where I was. The sound of the doorknob rattling reached my ears.
Ah, hiding in the bathroom, are you? Hey, Cher, unlock the door. Don't make this hard on me.
When I remained silent and didn't respond, a loud bang suddenly came through the bathroom door. The sound repeated, and the bathroom shook violently. He was probably hitting the door with something just like before.
Come out already.
His angry shouts and the sounds of him hitting the door alternated. I trembled in fear, praying that the door would not break. But the door started creaking under the strain. This isn't good. The door will break and he'll get in. Just then, I heard a sound like something falling.
Stop. Ugh!
Roy's voice was followed by another man's.
Suspect apprehended.
It seemed the police had arrived. Then I was told by the police to come out, and I left the bathroom. Roy was handcuffed and being put into a patrol car outside.
Cher.
Dad! Seeing Dad, I instinctively hugged him.
I'm glad you're safe.
I was relieved to be alive. Roy was arrested on the spot and later faced charges for Haley's death. He confessed during police questioning and was convicted. Roy had hidden his gambling addiction from me. He had accumulated debts, repaying them with Haley's help, only to incur more debts. He killed Haley for the life insurance money. He poisoned her, adding powdered pesticide to her coffee or tea whenever he brought gifts to his parents. He poisoned her, adding powdered pesticide to her coffee or tea whenever he brought gifts to his parents. That's how Haley collapsed one day and lost her life.
Cher, I'm sorry for my foolish son. I can't express how sorry I am for the terror he caused you.
John apologized. Please lift your head. You're suffering the most. We managed to put him in prison. We avenged Haley, I said, unable to stop my tears. Roy will never leave prison, but thinking of Haley and John, who lost his beloved wife, fills me with indescribable sorrow. Roy should spend his life in prison reflecting on his crimes. I regularly visit John, staring at Haley's memorial photo. Haley was like a real mother to me. Haley, I'll always treasure the clothes you picked out for me. Even today, in both my professional and personal life, I wear the outfits Haley coordinated for me, often recalling her gentle smile. Stop joking around. Enough with the mocking. I angrily threw the box containing the dress into the trash can. Hey, what are you doing? Throwing away what your son gifted his child is just awful. Susan confronted me with these words. Can you still say that after seeing this? I showed her something that turned her face pale. My name is Mary, a 38-year-old office worker. I've been married to my husband Joe for nearly 10 years now. Joe and I met at a party. Joe was there at a party thrown by a mutual friend.
Ah, found a smoker. I'm going to sit over there.
I used to smoke back then, but I've since quit. I loved rock music and often went to live music venues as a college student. I got hooked seeing everyone around me smoking and enjoying their drinks while watching the live performances. By the time I started working, there was a big push for no smoking and segregated smoking areas, and I, as a smoker, felt quite constrained. At that party, only Joe and I were smokers. I thought I'd be the only smoker and sat at a corner table, lighting a cigarette. He came over, looking delighted to see another smoker. Just being smokers gave us a sense of closeness, but we also shared a love for rock music. He often went to music festivals, and we liked many of the same bands. We hit it off and spent the whole party talking just to each other. We exchanged contact information, started seeing each other, and then began dating. Being with someone who shared my interests was comforting, and he was fun to be around. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and after dating for about 2 years, he proposed.
Mary, marry me. I want to be with you forever,
he said, offering me a ring. I immediately accepted, and we decided to get married. I thought life with him would always be fun. But marriage taught me it's not just about the couple. Nice to meet you. I'm Mary. This happened during my first family meeting at my in-laws' house. My mother-in-law Susan was cold towards me. So, you're Mary. I've heard about you from Joe, but are you really suitable to be my son's wife? What? Did you graduate from college? Yes, I did graduate. I see. And where do you work? Susan grilled me with questions like an interviewer.
Come on, don't interrogate her like that.
Mike, you're too soft. As a mother, I just want my child to be happy. Susan was very strict, almost overprotective, like a mother hen. I wondered if marrying him was really the right decision. I was genuinely concerned. But still, my love for him outweighed those doubts. I'm seriously involved with Joe and really want to marry him. If there's anything I'm lacking or you're concerned about, I'd appreciate your guidance, Susan, I said, asking her for advice. Susan looked shocked, and then quickly averted her gaze. If I find anything unsatisfactory, I won't hold back, she said, almost spitting the words out. I was anxious about getting along with Susan, but I didn't want to give in, even if she harassed me. I think that's the rock spirit in me, never backing down. Later, when I met my parents, Susan bombarded them with questions too, which was a bit unpleasant. My parents too.
It was like being interrogated,
they said, a bit taken aback. And finally, he and I managed to have our wedding without any issues. Thankfully, Susan didn't say anything during the ceremony, so I could focus on my wedding without worries. Then Joe and I went on our honeymoon, and after returning, we started our married life together. Life with Joe was so much fun. He always made me laugh. But whenever we visited his family for Thanksgiving or Christmas, I felt a bit down. Mary, do you cook properly every day? Are you feeding Joe nutritious meals? Oh yes, I cook every day. What exactly do you cook? Well, soups, steaks. Do you make sure he eats fish? You need to think about nutritional balance and make sure he eats vegetables. Well, Joe doesn't like fish much. I know that. And that's why I used to finely chop it into pasta sauce or make cod in a cream sauce. You should do the same. Ah, I'm sorry. Really, can I trust you to take care of my son? I felt like Susan was overly doting on her son. The kind of menu Susan prepared might be easy for a housewife, but it was quite a challenge for someone working full-time like me. But it seemed like Susan didn't take my situation into consideration, and often complained. That's why I wasn't keen on visiting my in-laws' house. However, Joe valued his family, or rather he was overprotected by Susan and liked her. I thought he was a bit of a mama's boy. So we invariably went to his parents' house for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and sometimes he would take me there on other occasions too. Each time Susan watched me with a critical eye, which made me uncomfortable. 3 years into our marriage, I got pregnant.
Really? Are you sure?
Yes, the doctor confirmed it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary.
Joe was overjoyed about my pregnancy, and I was happy too. Both my parents and my in-laws congratulated us. I was excited about starting my new life as a mother. But pregnancy was tough. I was prone to getting sick, and even eating was a struggle. When I discussed it with Joe, he said,
I'm not good at housework.
He was sympathetic, but not much help. There was still time before I could take maternity leave, and my mother couldn't come home easily as she lived in the countryside. That's when,
Why don't we ask Mom to come over?
Joe suggested. I was speechless. The thought of living with Susan, who had always been harsh with me, especially when I was physically and emotionally vulnerable, during pregnancy was unbearable. I'm not sure about that, I blurted out, and Joe was surprised.
Why not? Her house is close, and it would be best. You'd appreciate Mom's help with the housework, right? It makes the most sense. I'll call her right away.
Wait a minute. Joe decided on his own. Before I knew it, Susan was coming over every day to help with the housework. Susan, thank you for helping out from today. Sure thing. I was extremely anxious. I expected Susan to nitpick everything. I thought she would criticize me for not cleaning properly, or for having a messy fridge. But surprisingly, Susan wasn't as harsh with me as I had expected. How are you feeling? I'm okay, thank you. Good. I made a salad. Have some. Thank you. It's delicious. Glad to hear that. The salad Susan prepared had boiled and shredded chicken breast, sliced tomatoes and croutons on lettuce, topped with her homemade dressing. The dressing was exquisite, light and refreshing, making it easy to eat even when I felt unwell. When I was pregnant, I couldn't eat much either, so I got my nutrients from light salads like this. I see. If there's anything you don't like, let me know. Thank you. I'm fine with everything. Okay then, I'll come again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Susan wasn't one to show a smile, but she took great care of me. She continued to come every day, handling the housework efficiently without burdening me. Susan was an excellent cook, preparing many delicious dishes that even I could eat. Thanks to her, I was able to spend my pregnancy days calmly without any stress.
See, I told you it was the right decision to ask Mom for help.
You were right, Joe. Thanks for calling Susan. Then I went on maternity leave, but there was no need to go back to my parents' house because Susan helped with the chores and took care of me. Susan, I really appreciate everything you do. It's fine. That's what family is for, to support each other during tough times. Susan. Maybe I had misunderstood Susan. I thought she was a troublesome person who doted on her son and saw her daughter-in-law as an adversary, but that wasn't the case. She accepted me as part of the family and was strict because of that. A few months passed and I gave birth. It was a healthy baby girl. You did well. Congratulations. Thank you, Susan. Susan congratulated and comforted me. My parents also came to celebrate the birth. Joe managed to get away from work and was thrilled about the arrival of our daughter. Thus, with the arrival of our new family member, Joe and I began our life as a family of 3. Susan's help with our daughter, Karen, during my maternity leave was invaluable. Karen grew quickly, learning words early on. Mom, Dad, she began calling Joe and me. Time flew by as I raised her, and soon she was 5 and attending kindergarten. While I balanced work and parenting, Susan considerately helped with Karen. Today, Karen and I played house. Grandma and I had so much fun. That's great to hear. Speaking of which, is Joe coming home late again today? Yes, he seems to have a lot of overtime lately. I see. It's good to be busy at work, but he should also make time for his daughter. You're right. Joe started coming home later and later around this time. Of course, since we work at the same company, I understand that his responsibilities have increased over the years. But even so, his return time has been getting later and later. And on weekends, he often goes out alone, saying his friends invited him. Initially, Karen was close to her dad, but lately she's given up on him as he's become less involved. Seeing her looking lonely made me angry at Joe. Hey, could you spend a little more time playing with Karen? I said to Joe one day, but he looked annoyed. I'm working hard every day, and I'm tired. You should be the one playing with her. Is that really okay for a dad? Annoying. Whoever can do childcare should do it, Joe said, ending the conversation abruptly and going to his room. Wait a minute. I was dumbfounded by his behavior. Moreover, although Joe appears to be working hard, I earn more as I work for a better company. Despite working hard and doing the household chores, I'm bearing a greater burden than Joe. It's infuriating to be told as if he has it harder. During this time of frustration, something unexpected happened. The story goes back a bit. One holiday, Karen said she wanted to wear a new dress for her elementary school entrance ceremony. Joe was home unusually. Great, I will buy it for you, he said. I was surprised Joe said that, but Karen was delighted, which warmed my heart. Yay! Then I want a light blue dress. Okay, got it. I was happy to think that Joe was considering our daughter. But days passed and there was no sign of Joe buying the dress. The entrance ceremony was just a week away. Maybe he'll buy it next weekend, I thought, but Joe went out again, saying his friends invited him. Had he already prepared it? I became very anxious. During this time, Susan came over to help with Karen's care. There's a lot to prepare for the entrance ceremony, isn't there? Thank you, Susan. Is Joe not here again? That's right. What could Joe be doing at a time like this? Susan, too, was clearly frustrated that Joe had recently stopped taking part in caring for Karen. Then, something startling happened. While my daughter, Susan, and I were at home, the doorbell rang with a delivery. It was a package addressed to Karen. The sender's name was Joe, and it was marked as children's clothing. Thinking it might be the dress, Karen and I opened the box. But the dress inside wasn't the light blue one she had wanted. It was black. What's this? I felt a surge of anger looking at the color. It was so black, like something one would wear to a funeral. This wasn't appropriate for an entrance ceremony. Then I found a letter on top of the dress, which made me even angrier. Dear Mary, a gift from Joe and me to Karen. It's a pricey dress worth $1,000, so please use it carefully. Maybe for your funeral, for example. Stop joking around. Enough with the mocking. I angrily threw the box with the dress into the trash can. Hey, what are you doing? Susan was furious. Throwing away a gift your son gave to his daughter is terrible. Karen will be sad. Confronted by Susan, I calmly replied, Can you still say that after seeing this? I showed her the letter, and her face turned pale. What's this? Does this mean Joe is having an affair? It's possible. I collapsed to my knees in shock. I couldn't believe such a thing was happening to me. Mary, are you okay? Susan rushed to me, concerned. Susan, I'm sorry. No, I'm the one who should apologize for yelling. Karen, not fully understanding what was happening, just saw me faltering and came over worried. Mom, are you okay? Karen, I'm sorry for worrying you. I'm okay. This dress was delivered by mistake. Dad will buy the right blue one next time, so let's wait a little longer. Okay, I understand. After calming down, Susan and I decided to investigate the truth. We left Karen with my father-in-law and waited for Joe. I'm home. Welcome back. Joe, I bought your favorite Mont Blanc cake. Want some? Really? Yes, I love it. Joe has a sweet tooth, especially for cakes, so Susan used sweets to catch Joe off guard. I'll prepare some iced coffee. Thanks. As Joe was fixated on the Mont Blanc in front of him, Susan approached with iced coffee, but deliberately spilled it on his clothes. Whoa, Mom, what are you doing? Sorry, you better take that off quickly before it stains. Susan urged Joe to change his clothes. Caught off guard, Joe left his mobile phone on the table and went to change. While Susan was following Joe, I opened Joe's mobile phone. He had said it was set to his birthday. When I entered the lock number, I could access Joe's mobile phone. I found the text with his mistress and took photos with my phone. Then, come over now. I want to introduce you to Mom. My wife is out with our daughter. I messaged the mistress from Joe's phone. Immediately, a reply came. Finally decided to leave her and be with me. I'm so happy. Great, the mistress will come here now. And indeed, after some minutes, the mistress arrived. When I opened the door and led her to the living room, Joe was shocked. Sarah, why are you here? Why, you invited me. You said you wanted to introduce me to your parents. I didn't do anything like that. What are you talking about? You sent me a message. Joe checked his phone in a panic and realized I had sent the message. Mary, you messed with my phone. That's despicable. Joe was furious at me, but Susan got angry at Joe's response. The lowest of the low is you. How dare you betray your wife and daughter like this? To hurt your family instead of protecting them. You should be ashamed. Mom. Joe was surprised to be scolded by Susan, who usually sided with him. I asked Joe about the black dress. Did you know about the black dress that Sarah sent to Karen? What? This dress came with a letter like this. Joe seemed unaware as he read the letter, speechless. Sarah smirked triumphantly. You did this, Sarah? Well, Karen wanted a dress. So I bought her one. It's a designer brand. Cost $1,000. Are you insane? Making our affair public and even involving my daughter in it? Well, I thought you'd never leave her otherwise. What are you talking about? I'm not divorcing. What? Sarah was shocked by Joe's statement. Why? I'm better than her. Shut up. It was just a fling with you. No way. Sarah broke down in tears. I realized how despicable Joe was. So I told him, we're obviously getting a divorce. What? Do you realize what you've done? You've betrayed our family. I never want to see you again. I want a divorce now. Wait, if you divorce me, you'll have trouble. No support from Mom. And you'll be taking Karen's father away. That's not a threat. Susan said she'd support me in parenting even if we divorced. Karen has almost given up on you anyway. We're definitely divorcing. You don't want to divorce because I earn more than double your income, right? You'll lose those benefits. Sarah, hearing this, what do you mean? Confronted Joe. Joe, pale-faced. I hardly paid any living expenses here, so I could spend lots on dates with you. He explained to Sarah. So, you can't afford a luxurious life for me if we get married? Joe nodded, and Sarah was furious. Joke's on you. I don't need a man without money. Sarah stormed out of the house. Running away won't help. I'm still going to sue for compensation, I said to her. For a moment, Sarah froze, but then she left the house through the front door and was gone. Joe, you're an embarrassment as a son. Don't see me or Mary again. Susan disowned Joe, who was left in a state of shock. Later, I sought compensation from Joe and Sarah through a lawyer, and demanded child support from Joe post-divorce. Rumors at Joe's workplace about his affair and now second divorce left him feeling isolated. I also sent a copy of the distasteful letter Sarah sent to her employer, so she too faced cold shoulders at work. Meanwhile, Karen and I are living happily. Susan occasionally visits us, allowing me to balance work and parenting without any trouble. As a single mother, I plan to continue raising my daughter with all the support I can get.
A wedding is one of the most important events in life, celebrating the new start for a newlywed couple. And today, my husband and I were attending my sister-in-law's wedding. Truth be told, I didn't really want to go, but I ended up going anyway. However, as the reception progressed and dishes were served one after another, I was somehow presented with a kids' meal. In contrast, everyone else seemed to be enjoying upscale French cuisine. I was asking the staff about this mix-up when my mother-in-law approached me with a sly smile. "Are you enjoying the wedding?" she said, looking down on me. Before I could respond, my husband spoke up. "My name is Olivia. I just turned 32, and I run my own original apparel company. I'm married to William, who's 2 years older than me. We got married 3 years ago after meeting at a department store. Most of my company's products are sold in apparel shops and department stores, and my husband worked as a security guard at one of those stores. Among the generally older security guards, he stood out to me as he was younger. I was 27 at the time, and he was 29. He was muscular but still looked slender. I learned after we got married that he used to be a firefighter, but retired early due to a lung injury sustained in a fire. We met every time I went to pitch my products at the employee entrance, and he eventually asked me out to dinner. I was single then, and one thing led to another, leading to our relationship, and we got married 2 years later. Life with my husband is joyful. We hardly ever argue. However, the challenge is that we're both busy with work and have little time together. But I have no complaints, except for one issue with his family. He has an older sister, Sarah, who's 35, and this Sarah was quite troublesome. It all started on a day when my husband and I both managed to get the same day off using our paid time off. "Why don't we go shopping since we finally have a day off together?" "Sounds great. I've been wanting new shoes, so that's perfect." We rarely have the same days off due to my role as a business owner. I can't easily take time off, and it's my fault. As the owner, it's harder for me to take days off. Naturally, in a sense, I have the least priority taking days off. Plus, my daily tasks often keep me busy until the morning. As a result, I usually miss my husband when he leaves for work in the morning. But when we were finally set for a date, our doorbell suddenly rang at 7 a.m. "Who could it be at this time?" my husband grumbled as he went to answer the door. Then, "Hurry up and open up!" someone was yelling. "Sis?" he exclaimed, and I followed him to the door. When we opened it, there stood my sister-in-law, Sarah, with a suitcase. "Sarah, what brings you in at this hour?" We were completely baffled. Then, with a nonchalant expression, she said, "Let me stay here for a while, okay?" "Excuse me? What do you mean, sis?" Naturally, we were perplexed. She just showed up out of the blue, asking to stay as if it was the most natural thing. And so we asked, "Why? What's going on? You didn't even tell us you were coming." "Well, I'm getting married soon, and the venue's close to your home. It's a hassle to come all the way here for venue inspections and dress fittings. Then I remembered you both lived around here," she said, and started to barge in. I immediately objected. "Wait, we finally have a day off together, and we were about to go out." Hearing this, Sarah's face suddenly brightened, and then, "Oh yeah, where to? Shopping?" she said, getting excited. My husband and I exchanged a look. Don't tell me you're planning to come with us," I asked hesitantly. "Why not? Is there a problem?" she retorted defiantly. At her audacity, my husband and I were dumbfounded. Then she added, "I want to go look at baby stuff. I want to make sure I'm ready for the baby." She seemed all set to tag along, taking the lead while we stood frozen at the entrance. "Come on, let's get ready. We'll leave by 9 a.m. How are we going? By car? My husband's face darkened at her self-centered attitude. I rarely see him look so gloomy, but it seems he's never gotten along with his sister. He mentioned they used to fight a lot as kids. Is there any way you can leave? William and I just want to enjoy our day off together. Sarah glared at me and snapped. What? You want to exclude me? Wait, you're from a single mother family, right? Yes, I am. So what? Figures. I've known some people from single mother families, and they lack empathy. They always look down on others. Her words were ironic, as she was looking down on me while saying that. She just claimed that single mother families produce judgmental people, and was she not doing exactly that? Unlike me, she had both parents. Her whole perspective was a baseless stereotype, and it infuriated me. That's prejudice. I'm not like that. And look, even William is uncomfortable. I looked at my husband, and he was glaring at his sister. What's up, William? You got something to say to your own sister? She taunted him. Of course I do. Please just go home. My husband's tone was firm. Fine, but don't come crying to me later. Especially you, Olivia. I wondered why she singled me out. Thanks for the warning, I replied nonchalantly. With that, she left without another word. After successfully getting rid of her, we had breakfast and went to the nearby mall. But the unlucky start to our day seemed to continue. After shopping, we decided to rest on a bench. Then, we unexpectedly ran into Sarah again. Look who it is. The same too. Guess we ended up at the same place. Sis, my husband muttered, then heard someone calling her name. It was a familiar voice. It was my mother-in-law. Sarah, let's go see those luxury bags over there. Approaching us, his mother noticed us too. William and Olivia? You too, Mom? He sighed, sounding exhausted. I felt the same way. Dealing with his sister was hard enough, but his mother made it worse. Why? Because she's simply unpleasant, and she quickly showed it. Is that bag from Infinity Tread Shoes? She pointed at the shoe store bag my husband was holding. Yeah, it is. She and his sister exchanged looks and laughed. Since when do you wear such cheap shoes? Look at ours, matching luxury brand shoes. William, choosing the wrong partner brings misfortune. Their contemptuous gaze was mostly directed at me. It was clear I was the main target of their disdain. You talking about me? I asked impulsively, to which my sister-in-law replied. I wonder if we are. Dodging the question, she hurled insults at me. Then my husband interjected. Enough! Mom, your consistent bragging about wealth has always been embarrassing and annoying. He was angry, a side of him I had never seen. His job as a security guard lent authority to his voice, but it seemed to have no effect on these two. William, you were born into a wealthy family. Are you okay with this? Being with this uneducated, poor woman? Education doesn't matter much these days, and Olivia's... Despite them being his family, he prioritized defending me. That alone made me happy and strengthened my trust in him. But the two, faced with his opposition, cut him off before he could finish. That's not true. Dad got his job at a major company because of his education. He's even the vice president now and will soon be president. William, you graduated from a famous university and yet you're with a woman like this. You've really fallen. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law treated me as an outsider, steering the conversation their way. Despite my husband's retort, they showed no remorse. To me, their nature seemed utterly rotten. How much do you earn? By the way, my dad earned 100,000. 120. Before I could finish, my sister-in-law interrupted. Wait, 120 a month? She laughed mockingly and continued. Sorry, I should have been more considerate. That must be tough, especially for a dropout. Hey, enough. My husband tried to interject, but my sister-in-law placed a hand on his shoulder, and then, well, good luck, Sarah said. My husband was visibly angry. I felt a surge of hatred inside me. but these two seemed oblivious to our feelings, continuing the conversation at their own pace. Oh, you both better attend the wedding. Mom's preparing a grand event. Yes, we're sparing no expense for our darling daughter's wedding. You are coming, right, Olivia? The pressure from my mother-in-law felt like I couldn't say no. My husband, being family, would obviously attend. I guess it's okay if he's there. Reluctantly, I agreed to go. If my husband weren't there, I would never attend such a wedding. The day of my sister-in-law's wedding arrived. I finished my piled-up work, and even got a new dress with my husband for the occasion. Arriving at the venue, it was clear my mother-in-law wasn't exaggerating. The luxury hotel, the huge ballroom, decorations, and the size of the wedding cake all spoke of extravagance. You both made it. My mother-in-law approached us upon arrival. Not that I wanted to make it. This was probably my husband's true feelings, showing an uncharacteristic wary expression to his mother. This wedding cost $100,000. We have 500 guests, and the meal is a special course by a top chef. Impressive, isn't it? Only we could do this. She looked down on everyone, but passers-by only offered polite smiles and nods. I was appalled by her need to flaunt her status. Why didn't you spend this much on our wedding? My husband's words reflected our reality. Our wedding was modest, costing $20,000. Therefore, it was a simple wedding with only relatives and a few friends invited, but I was still happy with it. I was content, but in terms of treatment, it was indeed unfair. After all, my husband is her blood-related son. What are you saying? Sarah's fiancé, Alex, will soon work directly under Dad. Directly? Of course. When Dad becomes president, he'll be groomed to be a key player in the company. It's only natural we welcome him appropriately. Saying this, my mother-in-law laughed proudly. While we were talking, my father-in-law joined us. Emily, it's almost time for Sarah and Alex to make their appearance. Aren't you going to take pictures in the front row? It felt like he was putting an end to our conversation, but it seemed he too was at odds with us. After speaking to my mother-in-law, he turned to us and said, It's been a while, Olivia. You should feel honored just to be invited to such a lavish wedding. You'll probably never experience anything like this again in your life. Unlike my mother-in-law, he spoke calmly, but his words were laced with condescension. My husband couldn't help but retort. Why do you have to say it like that, Dad? My father-in-law replied with a cold expression. Don't get me wrong, I never approved of your marriage. Remember the conditions I set? My husband glanced at me briefly before looking away. What? I had never heard what was about to be revealed. The fact that our marriage was never approved by his dad was new to me. Turning away from me, my husband spoke weakly. Graduate from a famous university, earn over $100,000 a year. That's right, you remember well. And Olivia? Turning his gaze briefly to me and then back to my husband, he continued. Olivia did drop out, but it doesn't matter. She's making money. Before my husband could finish, my mother-in-law interrupted him, shouting, Daniel, look, Sarah has finished changing into her second dress, she shouted loudly towards us. If it weren't for the fact that this was her daughter's wedding, such behavior would surely have warranted complaints for being disruptive. Others glanced at her, forcing smiles. Called by my mother-in-law, my father-in-law said, We'll talk about this later, and left the scene. My husband murmured, Olivia's much more amazing than you think, Dad, as he watched his father leave. I felt comforted, knowing he thought so. No matter what, he was on my side. That truth alone lifted my spirits more than anything. When the bride and groom appeared, the hall erupted in applause. The feast began with my sister-in-law's announcement. We have a special course prepared by a top chef today. Please enjoy it. After her words, the waitstaff began serving the food. However, my mother-in-law and a server were arguing close by. Are you sure about this? Yes, just do it. I understand. The server left looking uncomfortable, which I soon realized was the preparation for a prank on me. With the large number of guests, serving the food took time, and when my meal finally arrived, I was taken aback. Huh? In front of me was a kid's meal. I immediately asked the server, "Excuse me, but there must be a mix-up." I questioned calmly, despite thinking such a mistake was unusual. The server looked at me uncomfortably, the same one who had spoken with my mother-in-law earlier. "Can you replace it, please?" I added as the server remained silent. Finally, he spoke. "This isn't a mistake. I was instructed to serve you the kids' meal." "What?" My voice of surprise made my husband join the conversation. "What's wrong, Olivia? Why a kids' meal?" He too was surprised to see my meal. Why is my meal different from everyone else's? It was more embarrassing than shocking. People around started to stare at me. "Why do you have a kids' meal?" "I don't know either." Then my mother-in-law approached, laughing. "How is your meal? Perfect for a dropout from a single-parent home, right? If you don't like it, you can leave." My mother-in-law was unilaterally spouting whatever she wanted to say. I was reaching my limit of patience, no matter how much I disliked my sister-in-law. I couldn't ruin someone else's wedding. I had been holding back because of that. But if the mother-in-law, who was orchestrating the wedding, was causing the disruption, there was no need for me to keep holding back. Just when I thought this, my husband spoke up first. "Seriously, what are you doing? Aren't you embarrassed by this childish behavior?" His tone was calm but filled with anger. His eyes weren't smiling. I had never seen such a cold expression from him, as if he was looking down on an inferior creature. "What? Childish? What are you talking about?" My mother-in-law feigned ignorance, but my husband didn't let her get away with it. "This. Everything. Why serve a kid's menu to an adult? It's obvious Olivia wouldn't order such a thing." Then my mother-in-law retorted, her face turning red. "Marrying a poor woman and you dare to talk back to us. You've become a mere commoner since you married her, away from our late path." What a terrible way to speak. Though the notion that wealthy people are superior exists everywhere, my mother-in-law seemed to exceed that by far. I interrupted their conversation and spoke coldly to my mother-in-law. "True, I did drop out. That's because my parents passed away before I could finish middle school. But now, I'm the president of a company." "President? I bet it's nothing significant." My mother-in-law's momentum was unrelenting. Seeing this, I sighed. "I didn't want to do this because it's so childish," I muttered meaningfully, prompting a curious look from my mother-in-law. "What exactly do you do?" She spoke arrogantly, thinking she was in a superior position. It was disgusting to see such an attitude. "Daniel's company is Solar Burst Innovations, right?" "Yes, that's right, and he'll be the next president." "Is that so? By the way, the current president, Morgan, is a major client of my company. The socks distributed in his company every month are commissioned directly to my company by Morgan himself." "What?" My mother-in-law was momentarily lost for words. The socks I mentioned, developed by my company, were exceptional for their comfort even after long hours of wear. Originally, the technology was used for t-shirts, but was expanded to all clothing types. Everything Morgan wore was from our company. I was the one who suggested him to try our socks for his entire company. Then he told me that he would provide our socks to his employees. Since then, our relationship with him has been close, professionally. As mentioned, everything he wore was made by our company. That means even if you boast about your husband becoming the next president, if I report to Morgan about you, that might just remain a dream. As I said this, my mother-in-law's face turned pale, as if her fever had broken. "You know him, the president of my husband's company?" "Did you know? Morgan didn't go to high school either." "What?" "He's one of those uneducated people you despise. Shall I convey your words about the importance of education to him exactly as you said them to me?" When I said that, my mother-in-law pleaded, "Please, no, don't do that." Her demeanor completely weakened. People like her crumble easily when they realize their power is threatened. As my father-in-law rushed over, I repeated the same to him. Daniel, I'll advise Morgan not to make you the president. Please don't do that if that happens. Does your pride not allow it? My onslaught was relentless. I was surprisingly calm while confronting both of them. As I stood up to my in-laws, the surrounding crowd became noisy. Of course they did. Trouble had started just as the meal began, and only our table's progress had stopped. Sensing the commotion, my sister-in-law approached our table. What's all this fuss about? Unaware of the situation, I bluntly told her. Sarah, by the way, I make over $120K a year. My business is stable thanks to that. I didn't tell you the other day because you interrupted our conversation. Upon hearing this, my sister-in-law's face contorted. She stood frozen, gripping the hem of her dress. After I fought back, the entire in-law family looked as if their souls had been sucked out in an instant. So everything we've been doing to you is, yes, just harassment towards me and self-destructive acts that undermine Daniel's position. As I declared this, my mother-in-law suddenly changed her attitude and knelt on the floor. She clasped her hands together. I'm sorry, please, I beg you, forgive me. Seeing her, I wondered if she had any pride left at all. Her readiness to get on the floor so easily seemed almost refreshing, but it still wasn't a reason for me to forgive them. No, I won't. You've judged and insulted people based on their appearances. You should face the consequences. Please, we've almost used up our savings for this wedding. If I don't become president and get a higher salary, we'll struggle financially. My father-in-law got on the floor, following my mother-in-law's example. My sister-in-law watched with a powerless expression, and then asked weakly, Huh? Dad, you're out of money? Yes, I used all I had for this wedding as a gift to you two. What about our honeymoon funds? Alex's promotion? Her voice trembled. But she was only lamenting her worsened position, disliking being brought down from her pedestal. It was all about her own convenience. She wasn't trying to solve anything by herself, always depending on others. Wait, you boasted about being wealthy and were planning to go on your honeymoon using your parents' money? How shameful. What did you say? My sister-in-law retorted, but she had nothing more to say. To all three of them, I declared, real wealthy people and celebrities don't brag about themselves. In other words, you're all just fakes. Know your place. Oh. My harsh words completely disheartened them, and my husband murmured his admiration. After that, of course, the wedding was no longer feasible, and we suddenly had free time. We left the pitiful wedding venue of my sister-in-law. Later, I explained everything to Morgan. Got it. So it wouldn't be fun for you if Daniel became president, right? To be frank, yes. Don't worry. I won't forgive Daniel for insulting you, nor will I make him president. Maybe I should transfer him to an overseas branch. Morgan laughed as he said this. A week later, my father-in-law rushed to us. Please convince Morgan to cancel the overseas transfer. His face was filled with desperation. Apparently, Morgan was seriously working to transfer my father-in-law to another branch. When I heard it was Brazil, a half-day flight away, I almost burst into laughter. In the end, Morgan didn't cancel the request, and my father-in-law, unable to go to Brazil, seemed to have resigned from the company. Additionally, there was a big commotion involving my sister-in-law's fiancé due to recent events. First, the wedding turned into a complete mess. Then, the promised position at my father-in-law's company fell through when he resigned. My sister-in-law's fiancé originally worked in Italy. He moved to America for the wedding, only to be caught up in this absurd drama. In the end, my sister-in-law's marriage was called off, and she was in great shock, but she ended up in the hospital. My mother-in-law, affected by the downfall of my father-in-law and the mental breakdown of my sister-in-law, lost all her hair, and now looks like an old woman, as my husband said. The lives of these three people who freely insulted others lost their shine in an instant. Like a diamond that turns out to be just a lump of carbon. The wealthy life of my in-laws was nothing but a facade of pretense. Life can hinge on a single event influencing the future. This applies equally to both good and bad events. This was indeed such an occasion, I believe. As for me, I'm using my savings to prepare for building my dream home with my husband. While my in-laws' lives were becoming more difficult, my business was generating more and more profits. Moreover, perhaps due to things settling down, I'd become pregnant. With financial stability and a growing family, we must seem like celebrities to my current in-laws. Still, I made a promise to myself to live happily with my husband and our future child, never becoming arrogant no matter what.
What are you thinking? How dare you treat someone's daughter like this? That's right. It's outrageous to make your grandchild suffer. Well, that is. Please calm down. How can I be calm about this? It's unforgivable. I was furious and said whatever I wanted to. My husband didn't hold back either. For our precious daughter and grandchild, we had no intention of forgiving this. My name is Wendy. My husband Vance and I get along well. We both retired and often go out, enjoying our lives together. Our only daughter, Gabriella, went eagerly to her in-laws, so we were sure she was happy. When she went on a honeymoon after the wedding and later told us she was pregnant, we were thrilled. Becoming a grandfather, becoming a grandmother, we were overjoyed. Our first grandchild, Lex, felt like an angel when we held him in the hospital. We were ready to take care of him after birth, but when we talked to her about it, she gave us a disappointing answer. We were eager to help, but when we offered to take care of Lex, Gabriella's mother-in-law, Anita, refused. Our own grandchild. We can't leave him with you. We don't trust you. We were shocked by her harsh words. We started worrying about Gabriella. For years, when we tried contacting Gabriella, "I can't talk right now," she'd say and hang up quickly. Hardly seeing her, we grew more concerned.
Maybe she's just busy with married life. You were trained by my mom, right? Gabriella will be fine. You taught her well.
Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I have a bad feeling. Women's intuition, maybe.
We can't know that. Her husband seemed nice. They must be happy.
Hopefully that's the case. My husband's encouragement was a small comfort. Since we usually go out together, we decided to check on Gabriella by visiting her in-laws. After watching from a distance for a while, we saw Gabriella coming out to water the planters. Okay, let's approach her now. We rushed over to her. Gabriella, are you okay?
Ah, you startled me. Why are you here? What are you doing?
We came to see how you are.
Don't come here uninvited. Why would you do this? It's not okay.
You look thin. Are you expecting another child?
No, I'm just busy, so please leave.
Gabriella was very cold towards us. She seemed frightened, as if afraid of being seen.
Come on, it's been a while. Let's have a chat. There's a nice cafe nearby. Let's grab a coffee.
No, I won't go to such an expensive place.
It's just coffee. Let's talk, okay? As we argued, the house door opened. Gabriella's mother-in-law, Anita, refused our offer to take care of Lex. A woman in lovely clothes appeared. Oh, are you Gabriella's parents? Welcome. Was there some urgent matter? I didn't hear you were coming. Gabriella, you didn't tell me, did you? Anita smiled, but it felt like she was keeping us at a distance. Gabriella tensed up and looked embarrassed.
My parents just showed up unexpectedly. I'm sorry.
Well, come in then. Invited in by the hosts, we were eager to see Gabriella's life, so we attempted to enter. Oh, is that okay? Then we'll just pop in. But Gabriella seemed uneasy.
No, my parents have another engagement. They should leave. I'm busy too, please.
Despite being invited, Gabriella's panicked words made us leave. Finally, at her earnest plea, we reluctantly left. I told my husband on the way home that something seemed off with Gabriella, suspecting something with that Anita. It seemed my worries were spot on. and I was filled with anxiety, worrying day in and out about Gabriella. My chronic heart condition worsened, and I ended up bedridden. Then, unusually, a call came from Gabriella. When I answered, Anita was on the other end. "I'm sorry for not paying attention last time. Please come over again. We'll invite you." Anita had her good points after all. Invited by her, I felt relieved, thinking I'd go once I felt better. This might even help with my illness. When I felt a bit better, my husband and I accepted the invitation and headed to Gabrielle's in-laws' home. It was a well-kept house, so we prepared a gift and planned to greet them properly. "Hello, thank you for having us." However, the one to greet us was Anita, standing like a guardian deity at the entrance. She looked terrifying, like a demon, and I was a bit intimidated. What was going on? Hadn't she invited us? "Excuse me, but it's inconvenient today. We're about to have dinner. We haven't prepared enough for both of you, so please leave." We hadn't come to join their meal. "That's fine. We'll wait until you're done. No problem." "No, I can't let you stay without offering anything, please. Just go home for today." "We came all this way, and we'd like to see our grandchild if possible." "That child is still out at a friend's place. Probably won't be back for dinner." Anita seemed to be hiding something, inviting us, yet turning us away, not letting us inside. What was going on in the house? Was Gabriella safe? I felt like a detective or a cop trying to peek inside. "Can't we do something? Last time I couldn't even see my daughter properly. We just want to talk." "Well, your daughter is independent now, so there's no need to meet so often." "Oh, come on, please." "I already told you we're about to eat. Or are you planning to join us? We don't have enough for you." After a few back and forths, we ended up defeated by Anita's pressure and had to leave. I had hoped to talk with Gabriella after so long and felt disappointed. On the way home, feeling sad that we couldn't meet Gabriella, my husband gently patted my shoulder. He understood me, being my life partner.
It's okay. They have their reasons. Even if we can't meet Gabriella as we wish, it's fine as long as she's doing well.
"Well, last time I saw her, she looked so thin. I'm really worried."
Maybe she's dieting." I should be the one dieting, not Gabriella.
She's always been slim. Did she change her mind after marriage? Dieting? Our Gabriella? The one who loves to eat?
Maybe she decided to diet after getting married.
Yeah, she always liked fashion. Maybe her thoughts changed.
Right. Don't worry too much, Wendy. If you collapse again, that's what worries me.
Don't worry about me. I'm fine. We tried not to worry too much about Gabriella. We believed she would contact us if something happened. Days later, we saw Gabriella and Anita at the supermarket. My husband suggested not to approach, but I was too concerned seeing them. They were talking at the meat section. "Anita, please, at least for Lex." "Are you defying me? Who do you think you are?" "Lex is a boy, just started elementary school. He needs to build strength." "How much do you think that costs?" Eavesdropping? I couldn't understand what they were talking about. It seemed like they were speaking in a way that others wouldn't understand. I wanted to approach them, but my husband stopped me. We argued back and forth, getting nowhere. My husband said,
"Interfering in others' quarrels is difficult. Every family has its own way."
Gabriella, pushing a cart, looked lonely and seemed to be shopping under Anita's direction. Her figure from behind seemed to have lost all hope. My heart ached again. My worries grew even larger. I tried to explain this to my husband with all my heart. "Hey, something is wrong. This might be serious. We might be in a weak position since our daughter and grandchild are taken, but we need to do something."
Maybe you're right. But what can we do? We have no evidence."
"That's the problem. Gabriella won't talk, and Anita pretends not to know."
"Let's observe a little longer. We might be able to do something. Wait for that chance. You never know when it might come."
"Okay, let's do that. For that, let's come here again."
"Yes, that's a good idea. For Gabriella and Lex, let's keep trying. We decided to regularly observe the children at the supermarket, but we hardly ever saw them. They might not come to this supermarket often. We also wanted to see Lex, so we waited at the school gates. With so many elementary students, it was hard to find Lex, whom we hadn't seen in a while. Meanwhile, our daily routine had completely changed. On the other hand, Gabriella, unable to get through to Anita, seemed to be trying to discuss her son with her husband Sid, despite being busy.
Sid, I need to talk to you about something.
I have dinner with the manager tonight. No time to talk. Despite Gabriella's desperate plea, busy Sid seemed not to care about home matters.
It's about Lex.
What, is he in his rebellious phase already?
Even when Gabriella tried to explain, Sid would say irrelevant things. No, the doctor said his growth is slow. Don't you see? Lex is smaller than other kids.
That's not true. Isn't that just individual differences?
No, it's about nutrition. He isn't getting enough.
Just feed him properly. That's your job, right?
I want to talk to you about your mom giving Lex some meat.
Impossible. I'm busy. No time for that. I have to go now. I'm leaving Lex to you.
Gabriella worried so much about Lex, but Sid seemed indifferent. As we worried, Gabriella also struggled, feeling Sid's heart drifting away from them. She was convinced that if this continued, things would get worse, and she began to think of ways to change the situation. Gabriella, on the other hand, had appealed to Anita, but she was not being heard, so she was trying to talk to her husband Sid, because he is the father, even though he is busy with work, and she wanted him to think about her son with her. Meanwhile, I ran into my friend Caitlin on the street while I was troubled about Gabriella's family. Caitlin looked worriedly at my pale face.
Wendy, are you okay?
My heart, you know.
Really? Take care. Don't overdo it.
Thank you, but I have to go to the community center. I hadn't been to the local meetings for a while. Caitlin had always helped me, and neighborhood relations are important.
Actually, there's something perfect for you.
Oh, what's that?
Hawaiian dance.
Oh, I love that. I've always wanted to try. I had been feeling down thinking about Gabriella's family, but this lifted my spirits. Friends are indeed valuable. Thanks for inviting me. I think I can make it. Caitlin, noticing my still poor complexion despite my cheerfulness, seemed to realize I was troubled.
Something happened recently. I heard rumors you've been playing detective.
Detective? Caitlin looked at me curiously.
I love detective and crime dramas. I've always wanted to try surveillance. Maybe I can help you.
What? Detective? Crime?
No, you see, watching at the supermarket, staring at kids. It's like something out of a drama.
How do you know? I was flustered. If Caitlin had noticed, maybe Anita knew about our actions too.
Well, it's obvious, isn't it? We're friends, and your unusual behavior stands out.
Caitlin said it with a laugh, but the thought of our actions attracting attention made me a bit uncomfortable. From an outsider's perspective, our actions must have seemed suspicious. Oh dear, how embarrassing. But if you're willing to help, I'd really appreciate it.
Hey, what are you doing all this for?
I explained to Caitlin that I was worried Gabriella and her son were being mistreated by Anita, and I wanted to catch them in the act.
Looks like it's time for Detective Karen to step in. Let's clear up this matter, Wendy. Don't overdo it. It's hard on your body. I've got your back, don't worry.
Yeah, thank you. That helps a lot. Caitlin, now fully on board, started asking around. Apparently, many people had seen Anita and Gabriella having arguments at the supermarket, especially near the meat section. What did meat signify, and what could it lead to? With Caitlin's help, I had to gather more evidence. Without solid proof, it was difficult, but thanks to Caitlin, it was clear their arguments were food-related. Yet I couldn't catch the scene myself. These days only heightened my anxiety, affecting my health. My husband tried his best, but we couldn't easily enter their house, and we worried about Gabriella and her family. I might end up hospitalized. Heart disease is unforgiving. Worrying isn't good, but my daughter and grandson are my priority. If I were hospitalized, I couldn't do anything for them. Torn between my health and my daughter's situation, the pain and worry multiplied. I could collapse any day. My doctor had warned me about my fragile health. My husband stayed by my side always. Caitlin also brought fruit. If you meet Gabriella or Lex, you'll get decisive evidence, so hang in there. And encouraged me. She was a really reliable detective. Our investigation, involving not just us but also Caitlin, was reaching a climax. One day, while shopping in the market, I saw a group of lively elementary school students. Watching them, I noticed a familiar face resembling Gabriella. Looks just like Gabriella. It was Lex. Lex, is that you? Oh, you've grown. Yeah, I'm in first grade now.
You seem smaller than the others. Are you eating well?
Lex seemed hesitant to answer my husband's question, but looked straight at us and replied, No, I'm always hungry, even though we have lunch at school. What did this mean? Gabriella knows how to cook a variety of dishes. Wanting to fill Lex's stomach, we looked for a restaurant.
Let's eat together at that steakhouse. Grandpa will treat you, don't worry. You can even eat mine.
At the steakhouse, we let Lex choose what he wanted. Suddenly, Lex burst into tears. So loud that we hurriedly apologized to the other customers.
What's wrong? Is it bad?
If it's not tasty, you don't have to force yourself, I said. Lex shook his head vigorously and said with a beaming smile, No, it's not that. It's really, really tasty. Surprised by Lex's reaction, as if he had never eaten meat before, I was relieved to see him happy. Ah, I see. That's good. You scared us. As we were relieved, Lex muttered sadly, I wish I could give Mom some of this delicious meat, too. My husband and I understood something important from Lex's words. Maybe Gabriella and her family weren't eating enough.
Lex, you mean you don't usually eat meat?
Yeah, Grandma says it's too luxurious and won't let us.
Does your mom not eat it either?
Mom's even worse off. She can't eat fish, only rice. We were shocked. Gabriella and her family were being forced to live like this.
I see, Lex. Is there anything else troubling at home?
Well, we listened to Lex, who seemed more energized after eating, and learned various things. We had to confront Anita at their home. We were determined. Feeling comparatively well, we decided to visit their home with Lex. We started with an unrelated issue to catch them off guard. Upon entering, my husband spoke to Anita, while Lex and I followed our plan.
Hello. We ran into Lex nearby, and he seemed a bit down, hungry, so we took him to a steakhouse.
It was kind of you, but unnecessary. Sorry for troubling you.
No, he seemed unaccustomed to eating meat. Found it unusual, you know.
We caught them off guard. As Lex went inside, I quickly followed. The plan worked like a detective plot. Anita's reaction to the mention of meat made her face contort. There was definitely something amiss. Hey, don't just enter someone's house like that. Anita tried to get rid of us, but I hit the core issue. More importantly, Lex mentioned that the boy isn't eating meat. That's sad, isn't it? Is it true? Oh no, of course not. That's not true. We pressed Anita, who quickly denied. Really? You're not letting them eat meat? Let's make it black and white, whether we're feeding them properly or not. We cornered Anita, pressing for clarity.
What are you thinking? Not feeding a growing child properly?
Overwhelmed by our momentum, Anita started shifting the blame. No way, that's not me. Is that Gabriella's idea? I don't know anything. Gabriella appeared, interrupting Anita's denial. Wait, Anita. I can't take it anymore. It's too hard for Lex. I'll tell the truth. Dad, Mom, thank you for always worrying. Gabriella? She was different from her usual self. A mother protecting her child, courageous and divine. Dad, Mom? Actually, Lex and I haven't been fed properly. Sid is always busy eating out, not knowing anything. When I try to speak, he doesn't want to listen, and Anita interferes. Nobody helps us. Gabriella continued passionately. Anita seemed to shrink in size. Lex is smaller than other kids, and the doctor warned us about his diet, but nobody understands. Gabriella almost in tears, and Anita sweating and trying to deflect. What are you talking about, Gabriella? I'm not mean like that. Anita's continued denial at this stage was inexcusable. To push a child to a state where a doctor needs to intervene about his diet was way too much. Finally, Gabriella declared, Anita, I've had enough. I'm leaving this place. My husband comforted Gabriella, resolved in her decision. Gabriella, you've held up well until now. No more worries. First, pack your things. Both of you are coming to our house. Dad, thank you. Lex and I will bring our luggage. While Gabriella and Lex went to get their luggage, my anger towards Anita didn't cease, and I added fuel to the fire. It must have been a painful realization for Anita. What are you doing? It's as if Gabriella is a mere servant. This is not something a decent person does. I'm terribly sorry. Anita, who'd been looking down on people, was now humbled, almost unrecognizable. What were you thinking, treating someone's daughter like this? That's right. How could you make even your grandchild suffer? He's only in first grade. But that is, please. Dad, Mom, calm down. Calm down? How can we? Unforgivable. Why did you do such a thing? Confess. Demanding calm after such terrible actions was audacious. Treating your daughter like a servant and your grandchild suffering from malnutrition? How could you have done such things? I need to hear it from you to even consider forgiveness. Okay, I'll tell you. I'm in a bit of debt. I thought if I didn't buy meat or fish for Gabriella and Lex, I could save some money. I'm sorry. What a selfish and trivial excuse. I was completely appalled. What? You caused our precious daughter and grandchild such hardship over something so petty? Were you the only one eating meat? That's terrible. We could even take you to the police, you know. Please, anything but that. I'll do anything to apologize. Please don't tell the police. Please forgive me. Anita, utterly defeated by our words, deeply apologized with tears. Gabriella, who had witnessed everything with her packed belongings, ran towards us when Anita submitted. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. I hated being so cold to you. No need to apologize. We figured as much. You're a kind and dutiful daughter. You couldn't truly be cold-hearted. The debt Anita was trying to repay by skimping on Gabriella and Lex's food expenses was incurred from buying luxury clothes and accessories for herself, ballooning beyond her control. Even her own son, Sid, was shocked by the amount of debt, and amidst his busy work, he ran away with his belongings. The relationship with Gabriella had also deteriorated, leading to a divorce between Sid and his neglectful behavior. Anita, abandoned by her son, sold the house hoping to pay off some debt, and moved into a small apartment. She wandered aimlessly through a life of debt, working day and night. Meanwhile, we joyfully welcomed Gabriella and Lex into our home. How is it? Do you both like it? It's delicious. I can't believe we get to eat so much meat, Mom. I'm glad. The meat is great, but the salmon and fatty tuna are delicious too. Thank you both. There's plenty more potato hamburgers too. We fed them plenty of meat and fish. Perhaps due to this, Lex grew taller, and Gabriella, who had been thin, seemed healthier and her complexion improved. Indeed, eating delicious food is essential. Now both of them have regained their spirits and are enjoying and learning various things with us. Being able to witness our grandchild's growth up close is profoundly moving. The days spent walking around like a detective near Gabriella and Lex were not in vain. I am immensely grateful to Caitlin, who supported me. With the problem resolved, my stress vanished, and my health improved so much that my previous hospital concerns seemed like a lie. Now we are enjoying our happy, smooth sailing days.